My name is Manishi Rodrigo. I'm a 3L at Temple Law, and I came to Japan this year primarily because I'm really interested in trade law, specifically the TPP, which is the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and Japan just made a TPP bid to join the negotiations, and so I really wanted to be here while that was occurring and seeing the negotiations from the Japanese side and how they were really integrating themselves into U.S. trade and business law. This was the perfect time to do it. The initial days here, I'm not going to lie, were a little tough. Just because acclimating to a new culture, I think, is always kind of tough. But one of the best things people told me to do before I got here was not to go with the initial housing that Temple set up. There's a lot of hotels that you can get deals with if you say that you want a hotel stay for longer than 3 to 5 days. I stayed for 7 days in a hotel. Just call up the hotel regularly. A lot of them do Skype calls. They have Skype numbers on their websites, and they'll give you a discount as a student coming in. And then after I came in, I, just setting up your cell phone and, get acclimating to the subway and things like that. That took a little bit, but you learn everything at orientation, and people explain that to you. And the Japanese people were very nice. My cell phone lady, she watched American soap, so she knew a little English, and she helped me through the process. Set the entire thing up for me, texting, everything. Then when you go to orientation, a lot of stuff clears up and you meet your classmates and you can do things with them to overcome, those obstacles. I think the best suggestion I would give is you really should, if you're going to come here to do classes plus, which I think are a lot of people's objectives, and by classes plus I mean they really want to get a business experience out of this, or they want to enhance their Japanese skills out of this, or they really want to do something that's unique to Japan, like me. I really wanted to learn about Japan and the TPP out of this experience. You really need to set those things up far before you come. This is one of the leading cities in Asia for business. Every single financial firm that you can think of in the U.S., all the banks, all the consulting firms, they all take interns. They'll recruit those interns in August. U.S. government takes American interns, U.S. State Department, U.S. Department of Commerce, U.S. Department of Treasury, and the EPA all have attaches here. Those all get hired in August. Plenty of the Chamber of Commerce has a subsidiary here. Plenty of non-governmental organizations. So if you're looking to do something outside of classes to enhance a very specific niche of the law, that's something that you have to set up well in advance, because once you get here, it's very difficult to get things moving, and 4 months goes by before you know it. I think the classes here have an advantage over Philadelphia for transactional students. I really felt when I was in Philadelphia that it was very litigation based. And I feel that Temple Japan is very transactional based. So it really caters to a lot of students looking for that transactional niche. And one of the classes, my favorite class here, is international contract drafting. We actually get to draft contracts, and I'm pretty sure that class is not offered in Temple, Philadelphia. You get to draft international transactions from beginning to end, and we're doing a joint venture agreement, which I didn't even know what that was until I came here, and we learned all these business terms, plus how to actually put together those drafts and how to put together a transaction between any two countries and any two clients in two different countries. So I really like that aspect of the classes here. This is another question where cost of living, I can't lie, it is higher than Philadelphia. And for me, Philadelphia was higher than my normal budget because I come from Georgia and things are much cheaper than they are in Philadelphia. That's another thing where you really, I think, should plan ahead, and you can really decrease your cost of living. Short-term stay, you can take care of that if you plan ahead and get the discount ahead of time. If you get a Japanese, I think it's called Japanese bus pass that you have to buy when you're overseas, you can't buy it here. That saves you a considerable amount of money taking the Japan buses if you want to take day trips or side trips here. If you look at some of the budget airlines that travel in Asia and you book, they usually have their sales 6 months prior to when they want you to fly. So if you book some of those tickets, you can save tons of money. A lot of my friends are going to Malaysia for 50 bucks. Tokyo to Malaysia, 50 US dollars. And then they're flying out from Malaysia back to the US at the end, which is a significantly cheaper ticket than it is Tokyo to the US. So things like that, if you research into different housing plans. Every single realtor that presented at Temple orientation was willing to negotiate with Temple students their prices from what they initially presented. So anything you see on Craigslist is negotiable. Anything you see on a website is negotiable. Just come up with what your baseline price is going to be, and they'll usually match it. Cooking is a little bit more difficult here than it was in Philadelphia because the price of food is higher, but there's a lot of like 100 yen shops and things like that where you can buy a lot of staple groceries, and if you just stick to a cooking plan, you can, cut costs like that. So there are ways to cut costs. You just have to be smart and plan ahead on how you're going to do that. And Temple offers scholarships, so I think everyone should apply for that because as far as I know, most people who applied, I think almost everyone got it, and who's going to turn down free money? So I'm interning this semester at the ACCJ, which is the American Chamber of Commerce. And they are not a direct subsidiary of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, but they work with a lot with the U.S. government. I'm doing a lot of TPP work and on how Japan is going to enter this 9-country trade negotiation and the legal effects of how that's going to affect the U.S. and U.S. trade laws if Japan is allowed in. The U.S. has to vote them in. So this is really controversial right now because I'm seeing it from the Japanese side of why the U.S. is presenting the Japanese with obstacles. Like the U.S. automakers hate Japan coming in. They publicly stated that, and I'm getting to see it from the other perspective of what Japan can do to enter into better trade negotiations with the U.S. So I work on that, and I also do a lot of logistical stuff with the U.S. government. The ACCJ goes to D.C. very often, and they meet with a lot of our U.S. government counterparts. And right now I'm planning a conference that's taking place next week that's going to have all senior commercial officers and senior State Department officials coming into Japan to talk about Japanese business. And I work some of the logistics on that to see, so I'm getting a lot of exposure to high-level U.S. business leaders and high-level U.S. government leaders. I definitely think it's something you should do if you're looking for, like an exciting experience, and especially if you're not looking to practice in Philadelphia. That was one of the encounters that I had there. I like Temple, but I don't want to practice in Philadelphia, and I felt like I was stuck in a niche by just staying at Temple, Philadelphia, because it largely caters to the Philadelphia legal community. And this has opened up a lot more doors with the DC legal community, and a lot of firms that deal with commercial transactions that are on the West Coast and in other areas of the country. I also think it's something really good for transactional students, like I mentioned before, because a lot of the classes are really focused on transactional law. And it's really opened up like a globalized perspective, and it's really been fun because when else are you going to get 4 months to live in another country? When you start working, you're going to get 2 weeks off, maximum. So I think it was definitely something you should do. I think you have to be smart, you have to plan for it. It's not as easy as some other countries where the exchange rate is much more favorable, but I definitely think it's something you should do as a Temple student.